Curious writings made upon cuneiform blocks, there are endless areas of intrigue when it comes to ancient Mesopotamia. A fascinating and rare civilization, which had an equally striking appearance, often adorned with trinkets, with tightly braided, often thick flowing hair, with royals regularly depicted as giants. It is also a very special area of interest for our so-called fringe research. The reason for this is that Mesopotamia is one of those rare chapters of ancient civilization which, regardless of all previously noted, has strangely continued to be accepted by mainstream institutions, field studies apparently still flowing. As previously mentioned, this astonishing, and we feel far older than currently claimed civilization, is drenched with marvels of seemingly impossible ancient craftsmanship, many of which near impossible to explain in regards to currently claimed history. The reoccurring theme one finds when another post-Ice Age technologically regressed ancestor moves in to utilize these structures' offered safety will, in turn, leave behind an archaeological timeline. This then allows for an inaccurate and often blatantly ignorant dating, but to muddy said waters, are then met with a detailed, competent reconstruction of said lifestyles, religious beliefs, systems, etc., all in regards to a permitted ancestor, rather than any details or logical explanation as to their technologies or constructions. However, as mentioned, going back to the recurring event we notice is the briefest of these supposed builders' legacies, for when one has laid claim to an antediluvian wonder, the lack of understandings regarding the fortress's strength, or indeed how to efficiently use them, the ingenious design of some of the most impressive fortresses of Peru, Sacsayhuaman, Kulap for example, we posit, if under the control of the original constructors, would have been near impossible to evade and were completely self-sustained. Yet the academically claimed builders all seem to conveniently fold within less than a few centuries at most. However, the subject of most importance, and currently the most compelling exhibits of an ancient advanced civilization, is the nature of many of the artifacts, either recovered or now documented as having been depicted across much of their stone-cut artwork, and across Mesopotamia, notably the Assyrian civilization. They had achieved levels of technological sophistication simply impossible to have achieved in the brief, currently attested chronological life of said civilizations. Whether the Assyrian civilization and many others spanning ancient Mesopotamia have indeed been accurately identified, then an explanation for the array of remarkable technologies they had developed becomes a very hard area of archaeology to describe. Scuba divers, secret teachings, sophisticated levels and practices of law and healthcare, and most notably, and indeed the most vital section of the civilization's skill set, their intimate understandings that lay within their ability to create irrigation and agricultural systems, which rival even those of the modern day. These tremendous abilities tend to make us suspect that either the dating of Mesopotamia is drastically off, or these feats of engineering were, like many others, adopted by this later settlement, ultimately decoded and claimed as an invention of their own. Astonishing legends of the past, accompanied by an astonishing level of sophisticated astronomical knowledge, is another crucial factor which not only indicates what we are attesting, but what we feel could have only come from an extremely old source. Tributes to which seemingly found incorporated into nearly all surviving relics. Yet, as if academia claim, this ancient civilization merely wielded stone and very later bronze tools. The question is, how did they create such astonishing ancient ruins? The multi-ton lamassu, a mysterious stone-winged horse we have covered previously on numerous occasions, it seems just like that of the so-called pre-Incas, displayed levels of sophistication specifically around horticulture, far in advance of what we should have logically presumed to see. It is as if they had a helping hand by a far more ancient yet highly advanced intellect somewhere within antiquity. Are these Uparts surviving remnants, memories left by a pre-cataclysmic civilization, once capable of such sophisticated irrigating and building on steep mountain land with ease? We can for now only hypothesize. It is a pursuit we find highly compelling. There are countless ancient ruins found throughout Sri Lanka, which are all indicative of a lost technology, and thus a lost civilization having once been responsible for their creation. One of the most striking of these being the Sigiriya Mountain, an ancient stronghold made atop natural plateau, a sanctuary far away from the troubles that would have presumably been occurring below. Yet one of the most astonishing relics found within this ancient land is a rather well-hidden one. Although the water reservoir built into the Sigiriya site could offer one a subtle initial clue as to their existence, one would have to investigate the surrounding environment very carefully or be given local knowledge to ever find our next ancient anomaly in question. Hidden close by to the ancient mountainous stronghold, and now almost completely submerged into the surrounding landscape, gargantuan ancient water reservoirs, first documented by a Mr. Tennant from the UK and noted upon by William R. Corliss within one of his many volumes regarding lost civilization. Describing enormous water tanks found with the aid of the locals, all completely aligned with equally cut square blocks. One of the tanks, which the locals knew by the name Petheriacorn, has since been measured to be around 7 miles in length, 300 feet broad, with 60-foot-high earthworks along its biggest embankments. They are largely believed to have been constructed to gain complete control and subsequent mastery of irrigation throughout an impressive span of land. We approached an expert engineer to find out just what sort of feat these giant tanks would be. We received back an estimated price of around $4 million to merely construct the largest sections of the earthworks. They were undoubtedly an unimaginably large undertaking, one which we believe was beyond the capabilities of any ancient group known to modern history. Perhaps the sheer enormity of the undertaking, along with the fact that they would have been far easier to conceal than that of the Great Pyramids, for example, is a possible motive as to why there isn't more known about these marvelous groundworks, or why there is very little documented study, and why any that has been done was by independent historians. Regardless, we find these incredible, gigantic, hidden ruins highly compelling. We have previously covered the astonishing ancient fort known as Sigiriya that can be found within Sri Lanka, an ancient sanctuary once constructed atop an enormous geological feature. Such an incredible feat in architectural engineering is clearly testament to our distant ancestors' past capabilities. With an entire ancient settlement once constructed around its base, this ancient fort provided such high levels of security it would have been an obvious choice for re-inhabitation. These re-inhabitations, as mentioned before, would have allowed for these ancient people to have prospered and thus successfully leave their mark upon history. However, these more modern lodgers have been attributed as the builders of said sites, regardless of any explanation as to how remaining absent. Another of these intriguing forts is known as Harihar Fort. Found within India, this ancient fort also displays many of the telltale signs we often look for to indicate whether an ancient ruin is actually far older than modern academia are claiming, with a staircase once effortlessly and precisely cut into the sheer rock face, intriguingly absent a support brace that was once also attached to the rock face. Atop the fort, numerous caverns once carved out of the formation, along with a number of ancient stone structures that, although we feel were also left by lost civilization, were possibly left by a later inhabitation than the original construction. This hypothesis being based upon the levels of erosion witnessed upon the stairways, compared to the much better condition of these surviving mortarless structures atop. Indeed, although the stairway has all but eroded away in some areas and experienced heavy erosion everywhere else, the stone structures found atop the fort, due to their considerably better condition, we feel were seemingly built much more recently, yet still containing a level of build precision our more recent ancestors were lacking. Regardless of the extreme erosion present at the fort, along with the precision ancient masonry found atop, according to academia, Harihar Fort was built during the Pancaj-Pancharya period, a mere 400 years ago. Who built these astonishing ancient forts within ancient India? When were they built? How did they build them? With so many unexplained anomalies, along with the vast array of academic contradictions, we find Harihar Fort highly compelling. The Lotus Pond. Undoubtedly, one of the many astonishing advanced ruins that can be found around our planet. Who built this pond? Or indeed, Polonnaruwa, the incredible ancient ruin it is found amongst? Were the ancient religions merely reused? Maybe due to an attempt to claim such structures as their own. For indeed, these ancient buildings and their exquisite features provide an illusion of power as effortlessly as they seem to have been constructed. Any explanation, or the knowledge they were built with, evades us all. Polonnaruwa, within Sri Lanka, served as the country's capital city for nearly 2 centuries, between the 11th and 13th centuries AD. Just like the many other sites all over Earth, Polonnaruwa is indicative of advanced lost knowledge, dating back to a time far before modern civilization even existed. We believe merely serving as ready-built sanctuaries, perfect for re-inhabitation, protecting their future guests from foes, and allowing them a head start in architectural and agricultural development. The Three Kings conveniently dominate the history of this site within academia. It should be clear to any astute individual that any group capable of creating such everlasting, perfectly precise sites would have undoubtedly dominated the surrounding lands for many years. However, as the truth is, as we would suspect, the reign of these three kings, and indeed our more modern ancestors' inhabitancy, lasted a mere century before being invaded and the ruins severely damaged. We believe that these structures were once built by the dominating, most knowledgeable force upon our Earth, a civilization which clearly attained a greater understanding of architecture than us, the modern man. We believe the evidence strongly suggests this, while there is no evidence to suggest what academia expects you to believe, that these currently unexplained, unimaginably advanced ancient ruins were somehow built by our copper-wielding ancestors. However, the choice in what you believe, of course, is entirely yours to make.
We've covered many ancient, perplexing, unexplained sites which can be found all over the world. Astonishing achievements located far within Earth's history, many still baffling those who study them even to this day. Possible ancient kings with unimaginable wealth and power, using as yet unknown technologies to create ancient sanctuaries, capable of sustaining their once flourishing civilization. Perched upon precarious ledges, even upon the tops of mountains, it is not only the construction techniques which evade modern explanation, but on many occasions, how these ancient people built such structures at such hostile locations is equally challenging to the brain. Located within the northern Metale district near the town of Dambulain in Sri Lanka is a stone monolithic settlement perched high above the jungle, its stone ruins and ancient sculptures displaying the weathering of countless millennia. An ancient rock fort which is undoubtedly a testament to these ancient people's miraculous capabilities. Known as Sigiriya, or the Lion's Rock, it is an astonishing structure built atop an enormous rock formation, towering some 200 meters into the sky. According to academia, Lion's Rock was constructed within the last 2,000 years. However, future, yet little discussed archaeological exploration realized many remains and artifacts which date back far before this initial hasty dating, strongly suggesting an original origin far earlier in history. About halfway up the side of the rock is also the astonishing gateway in the form of enormous lion's feet. Above these would have been everything a small royal entourage would have needed to live a life in luxury in virtual safety. The question is, who were the first inhabitants of this gigantic rock fort? Who or what were they hiding from so far up in the sky? And most importantly, how did they build it? Interestingly, many sites around the world display extremely ancient and extremely amazing stoneworking. Some of these remnants appearing to have been formed through some sort of melting, rather than having been carved. And Lion's Rock indeed possesses some of this same astonishing traces. An astonishing fort, one which still displays the enigmatic ledge gardens also still visible within ancient Peru, and even a constructed man-made lake atop the rock. The site is rarely visited by the 1.8 million tourists to Sri Lanka, or even the native population. However, as the evidence mounts to suggest the existence of this highly advanced group of builders, such sites are becoming more and more of interest every day. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Throughout the last few years, the speculation regarding an engraving, now commonly known as the Stargate of Ranmasu Uyana, has been circling within certain fields. Known locally as Bawa Chakreya or the Sakwala Chakreya, it is hidden upon a boulder at the Royal Goldfish Park, sandwiched between Tisawiwa and the Isuramanaya rock temples at the World Heritage Site of Anuradhapura, Sri Lanka. It is not only a unique artifact, but as mentioned, a symbol believed by many to be a key to a portal. Sakwala Chakreya, which translates to universe cycle in Sinhalese, is a large circle comprised of 7 concentric rings. Lines are drawn vertically and horizontally, cutting the chakra into quadrants. Parallel lines divide the circle vertically into 10 strips, varying in width from 3 inches to 9 inches thick. Many have interpreted the patterns as figures resembling umbrellas, bows and arrows, kites, wavy lines, and cylindrical shapes, with the outer ring depicting marine animals such as fish, turtles, and seahorses. Quote, "When compared to the other carvings from the same period, they nearly always depict vines, swans, and the lotus, all of which typical of Buddhist iconography. The chart itself, however, is without religious context, making it an anomaly and leaving it without any obvious explanation as to why it should exist or indeed its real age," said Professor Raj Somadeva, Senior Professor of Archaeology at the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. The first academic notation of the chart's archaeological importance was by H.C.P. Bell, a British civil servant appointed as the first Commissioner of Archaeology for ancient Sri Lanka or Ceylon. Bell made a description of the chart in 1911, where he concluded that, quote, "This ancient map of the world is perhaps the oldest in existence, and is of quite extraordinary interest, its presence testament to the antiquity's astronomical lore." End quote. Although the chart does not resemble modern maps, Bell wrote that it depicts, quote, "an old-time cosmographical chart illustrating in simplicity the notions of the universe." End quote. According to the BBC World, quote, "eagle-eyed tourists have remarked on parallels between the chart and Anuradhapura and similar sites in other countries that are believed by some to be stargates, ancient gateways through which humans could enter the universe. Their theory goes that the chart holds the secret code for unlocking the portal." End quote. We find the Sri Lankan Stargate highly compelling. Regardless of continent, we even suspect Antarctica. You will find remnants left by an as-yet unexplored, ancient, yet clearly highly advanced civilization. Due to their immense age and the enormity of time which has passed since their mysterious disappearance, only stone megaliths remain. These remarkable block structures still allowing us to peer back and, with a bit of imagination, get a peek at just what this golden age could have possibly been like. Many of these ancient sites seemingly abandoned suddenly, with no damage appearing to have befallen any of these sites at the time of their vanishing act, leaving buildings half-built, stones half-cut, still resting in the quarries, including the notoriously remote Easter Island, all abruptly and mysteriously abandoned. The question is, where did they go? Did they reach a point of spiritual or technological ability that they experienced a type of rapture, ascending or perhaps descending into another place entirely? Perhaps through the use of some type of portal. Sakwala Chakraya or Ramsu Uyana is an ancient incredible petrograph. Beneath a large boulder, among the ruins of a once majestic city known as Anuradhapura, located within Sri Lanka, is what some experts have concluded is an inscription left by someone well over 5,000 years ago. There are two theories concerning the meaning of the petroglyph, and rather humorously, they both make the ancient drawing an upart. Firstly, that is somehow an ancient map of the Earth, a chart, illustrating a complex knowledge of the Earth. And secondly, and undoubtedly the most compelling, and supported by considerably more study, is the petroglyph is a key to some sort of portal, which many suspect to be a stargate. There are no other known images similar to Sakwala Chakraya known to any ancient cultures. In fact, there are no other known ancient images similar to Sakwala Chakraya anywhere in the world. In 1996, researcher and historian Mihindu Kulasaraya Susantha Fernando realized something amazing regarding surrounding ancient temples. Fernando described his discovery within his 1997 book, Alien Mysteries in Sri Lanka and Egypt. Just like the Great Pyramids of Giza, there exists a perfect alignment of three major stupas, Mary Savatia, Ruvanweli, and Jetavana, all perfectly aligning with three stars within the constellation of Orion, namely Rigel, Alnitak, and Bellatrix. It seems such compelling and precisely arranged features cannot just be a mere coincidence. The center of the key is filled by a large circle comprising 7 concentric rings, which has been translated in regard to the key theory to represent acoustic radiation. Who made the key of Sakwala Chakraya? Is it really a key to a stargate, like so many now believe? Is this where the builders of these ancient sites went? We find the research to suggest such, highly.